Well, good evening. My name is Jennifer Becker, and I'm going to be your moderator this evening. And on behalf of the Moose Lake Parent-Teacher Association, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to our community members that are here tonight, our PTA membership, the local media outlets, Moose Lake Superintendent Mr. Tim Caroline, and our aspiring school board members. We greatly appreciate your attendance and hope that tonight's discussion will provide you with informed decision-making this upcoming November. We will begin tonight with Mr. Tim Caroline, our superintendent. Mr. Caroline will be presenting an informal PowerPoint presentation on our operating referendum that will be on the ballot again this November. We'll then turn our attention to our aspiring school board candidates for a question and answer session, and closing with an informal meet and greet right out in the hallway. We do ask that at this time that you hold all applause until the very end. And now, Mr. Tim Caroline.
All right, thank you very much. I'll apologize in advance if I start coughing. I have a cold that has hit like a lot of you, and I'm hoping that my voice holds up here. I too want to thank the PTA for sponsoring this important night. Who will serve on our school board and the outcome of the referendum will greatly impact our school and our children. So thank you all for being in attendance. Like Jennifer said, I'll be giving some background information on our operating referendum. Please feel free to ask questions along the way. Just yell out, there aren't that many of you, so if you have any questions, just yell it out. One of the questions that is frequently asked is, what is an operating referendum? And what it is it's a locally approved levy to supplement basic state funding. This is why it's on the ballot. It's a locally approved levy. Unlike other government entities, the passage of a school referendum needs voter approval. It raises additional funds from district residents to help run our schools and support student programs. One of the questions that is brought up is, well, haven't you been coming back and forth to us as a community with a referendum in the past? There are two types of referendums. This is not a building referendum, so I just want to make that clear that in the past we have come to the community for our facilities needs. This is an operating referendum which supports educational programs, and one of the easy ways to remember this, there's a little saying that we bond for buildings and we levy for learning. This is a levy for learning. This is one of the important things about this is that I was interviewed today by one of the newspapers up in Cloquet, and I mentioned that to me, this is really more important in many respects than our facility referendums that we have come to you in the past. What goes on in our classrooms, the programs that we offer, is where the rubber hits the road. And so I can't stress how important this referendum is. Why are these extra funds needed? I think all of you have been watching the news and have seen that education, along with a lot of other organizations across the state or entities, are having a hard time with getting state funding. The state has no money to give us. So our funding has basically been flat over the past few years, and we have not had enough of an increase to even keep up with the inflationary increases or costs. So the schools depend on these funds just to provide basic programs and educational opportunities. There was a time when these were referred to as excess levies, and I think that's interesting because when you think of the word excess, it sounds like you have extra. What are we going to do with this extra money? We want to give our kids extra things. It's no longer considered an excess levy. It is providing the basic programs and needs that we have now. Don't we currently have an operating referendum? Yes, we do. The existing referendum will be expiring in the year 2012, and our current amount is $250 per pupil. And you can see this generates a little under $200,000. So yes, we have a current operating referendum. A lot of folks have asked me, well, do other districts have these operating referendums, or is it just us that are, are we just the only ones requesting this extra help? Over 90% of the school districts in Minnesota have an operating referendum. This shows the magnitude of the problem with the current way of funding education. When we have 90% of the districts across the state needing to go to their taxpayers to ask for a little extra help, something is wrong, in my opinion. So what this little chart shows is what currently some of the area districts have in place. And you can see we're toward the low end. And some of the future slides here will get into more specifics of that. So what will be on the November ballot? We are asking to revoke the current $250 amount. We would add $150 for a total of $400 per student. So what we would be looking at is generating $400 per student. The state average amount with 90% of the districts is $847 per pupil. The newspaper today asked me why we were asking so little. And it is one of those things where obviously I think we would all like to be asking for $1,000, $900, $800 like the state average. But our board does understand the financial hardships that many residents are having right now. And so we thought that the responsible approach would be to ask for an amount that would definitely help us keep our current programming and hopefully increase programming. And we just do not want to go through budget reductions like we have in the past as far as cutting teachers, cutting staff. If at all possible, those things are not fun to do for anybody. It impacts our kids. And so we thought at this $400 level we would be able to maintain what we're currently doing and hopefully improve and increase what we're doing. This revenue, if passed, would generate about $308,000. So what are we asking for? We're asking for an additional $115,000 basically.